this instrument of fixed income offers something in between the traditional fixed deposit versus the volatility of high returns of mutual funds or pure equity.
So we want to democratize bond investments. The SEBI regulations have also been helpful to regulate the market.
Most of the bonds that we deal with are either senior secured bonds or everything is secured. We don't do anything which is unsecured at all on a platform.
I've seen a lot of our investors have booked profits in equity markets and they're not able to find any good opportunity right now. I think you touched upon a very important point. I want to expand a little bit more and learn from you guys on how did you start on fixed income, why fixed income, a little bit of story for our viewers on Finzace.
So as I said, when you talk about investments, everybody says this, that you have to have a diversified portfolio, right? And looking at the market volatility in last previous year, recent times, right? And that's where I think fixed income was mandatory to have in your portfolio. Work with more than 5 lakh plus users in my previous organizations, and that wasn't diversified at all, right? So I think that's how we started, right? We started educating investors that you have to have a diversified portfolio, both in equity and debt as well, right? Debt or fixed income will act as a brakes for your vehicle, right, which will give you that stability and that kind of security, right? And that is very important. So that's where we stepped in and we started educating people, creating awareness about fixed income investments, and established Finzace in partnership with people like you.
Well, we are glad to be partners with you guys. You guys have been amazing to push the boundaries to offer better products than what are going in the market, like a lot of P2P lending stack. Fixed income really offers the alternative. So would like to touch upon what are the typical investor concerns you have seen. If we had some investor stories who were investing in other instruments, they did not know about fixed income. So what's your take on that?
In my view, I think, the investor profile of India itself is changing, right? I mean, I think, in the sense, if you talk about 50 years back, people did not have money to invest. I think it was more about survivability and things like that. And as you look, over the years, I think, there are savings, there are more in savings, and people have, they need to strategize on where to invest. There are more instruments and things like that. And when we talk about fixed income itself, I think, in a very simple manner, I think, and we would have seen all of those cycles, is what mutual funds and stocks was 15 years back. I think when we came through those cycles when, it was the same inquisitiveness, hey, what is this mutual fund? Of course, now in the last 10 years, with the right things, what SEBI is doing with mutual funds and all that, I think there's a lot of awareness. So I'm saying all that awareness and I think, the information that is available to the investors is what has made that category, I would say useful. There is more, adoption of that category. Something similar is what we are at the cusp of in the current times. In the last 1-2 years is what people are just trying to be getting aware of fixed income. Or talking about bonds. What is a bond? What are the different type of bonds? People want diversification. People want safety. People want to mix them. Want to have the decision-making framework, which is a mix of risk versus returns. And to that degree, I think, we are at an interesting time where this instrument of fixed income offers something in between the traditional fixed deposit versus the volatility of high returns of mutual funds or pure equity. So I think, there will be, we'll talk more about the concerns, the decision-making framework and things like that. But I think the genesis of this I would say this class and this category, what we call as fixed income, again, which is broken down into a lot of subcategories. I think that's been the genesis, and I feel, and we all feel, it's it shows a lot of promise as we go forward. I think, the onus is on players like us to kind of bring that awareness, bring the tools, bring all the technology into the ecosystem to make it easier, to make it affordable, and to make it accessible to the normal investors.
I think that is also a very excellent point. India's savings profile of retail users has also evolved.
Yeah.
Earlier, people were investing in mutual funds, equity. Now, almost everyone would have a demat account. There are 11 crore plus demat accounts. At least 20,000 crore of monthly SIP is done by retail investors in India. But people are still not investing that much in bonds. Could that be that people still don't understand a bond? Like if I were to explain what is a bond in a layman language, bond is a loan that you as an investor are giving to a company. Company will pay you a fixed monthly interest or a quarterly interest, and they'll pay back the principal at the end. In this whole process, you earn a yield between 9 to 15, 16%, which is fixed. People will compare it to FD returns, which are in 6 to 8%. In mutual funds, you maybe get between 15 to 30, 25%. But mutual funds are subject to market risk, as we have been told. In bonds, what is the risk perception in your opinion?
So basically, why people are investing in mutual funds, or why people were invested in mutual funds, that was very accessible. It was easy, right? There were so many mutual fund distributors out there or platforms out there which made it very easy for them to invest. Similarly, bonds have not reached to the doorsteps of retail investors yet, or the investors yet. And most importantly, the awareness is not created. The knowledge is still missing out there. People, first of all, or users still need to understand, or investors need to understand what exactly is the bond, how it works, as you just said, right? For example, if you're investing in any company in the form of stock, right? And you are again investing in the form of bonds. We all know that, or probably people might not know this, that if you are invested in bond, the repayment priority is given to you. Any given day, the company is going in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right? So that level of safety is there in bond, and people need to understand that. The terms of risk to sab jagah hai, right? When you talk to stock market ho gaya, banks, fixed deposits ho gaya, right? Any investment instrument, there is a risk out there. But comparatively, bonds offers security, right? There is a collateral which is there. That is what people need to understand on. That is what the awareness has to be created about, how secure it is, right? Most of the bonds that we deal with are either senior secured bonds, or everything is secured. We don't do anything which is unsecured at all on a platform, right? So if that is offering you, as you said, 9 to 15% yield, and coupon of 9 to 10% per annum, why not? Right? That is any day better than FDs, or performing much better than mutual funds, I would say, in last 5 years. Right? These are my thoughts about bonds.
In FDs also, you are only insured up to 5 lakhs.
Yes.
And that too also in bank FDs.
Yes.
If you go to NBFC FDs, people are confused that it is secured, but it is not secured in a true sense. In bonds, what I feel is, in compared to equity, your risk is unlimited. You can, like, stock can tank 90% next day, you provided the lower circuit limits, but in a week it can go anywhere. You might lose a lot of capital. In bond, if you're looking at short tenure bonds, like let's say 6 months, 1 year, 2 year bond, the risk you are taking is, will this company shut down in next 2 years?
Yeah.
And a lot of companies are of good credit quality. They will not get shut down. So essentially your risk is very, very minimal, unless we have had instances in the past. Like how many instances would you remember?
We have hardly seen, but I've seen that a AAA rated bond is also defaulted for XYZ reasons. And that was an financial institution, right?
I mean, we always have, we can have black swan events, like, the likes of 2008, possibly, I think, which was a long time back. But as you rightly said, I think, it's a mix of, I think, what it offers, right? I think, it has a better risk reward kind of a ratio compared to, like, not hitting circuits. And secondly, they are being, like, underwritten by collaterals, underwritten by, like, their own assets and cash flows and things like that. So yeah, it's a mix of that thing. But what is important is how do we make this awareness and availability to the users. I think that is what is important. In fact, maybe since we are talking about it, I think, in fact, I had a question as to, since you are in, you offer both, you are an NBFC as well as a part of the UB group, and Aspero is, offers listed bonds. How do you, make the choice of, and what's the kind of, the process of underwriting and things like that? The instruments that you want to kind of downstream, make it available for retail users. So high level, the thinking from UB standpoint.
So from that angle, we are the largest investors in the bond market. So we identify good quality companies who will have multiple types of use cases which are not bank fundable. So some company, let's say, is acquiring another company. This is not a bank fundable use case. Another company might want to give exit to their PE investors.
Okay.
That is again not a bank fundable use case. In some cases, people want to build their brand in retail market because eventually they will go for IPO. So our fundamentals are very clear. We will invest in good quality companies because we are the primary investors. We are putting in our own money, and then we are selling it via partners like you and directly. So we want to democratize bond investments, and the SEBI regulations have also been helpful to regulate the market. Earlier, the fair value used to be 10 lakh, then it got down to 1 lakh, now 10,000. In public issuance, it is 1,000 today, even today, right? So SEBI is also trying to move a lot of
Absolutely.
push in this market. So we will see a lot of more retail investors. But our view is very simple. We will not invest in companies that we feel will not be able to repay this bond.
Yeah.
And usually the tenure is less than 2-3 years only. So we take that view. If the company is good, the founder profile, promoter group is good, we would invest in that company. And we would, if they are doing well, we would keep reinvesting in that companies. In the last 3-4 years, we have not seen a single case of default.
Yeah.
And default in the bond market is also a delay of interest payment is also considered default.
Yeah.
We have not seen
In any of those.
Is it 0.2% or something?
for us it is
0, right?
Super.
we have not seen.
I mean, I was talking about across the bond market.
Yes, the market it will be maybe slightly higher because we have had cases like DHFL and others in last 5 years. So I also want to touch upon how portfolio construction is done, right? We are talking about for people to invest in bonds, but people will not put 100% of their portfolio in bonds, right? That also does not make sense. People will have a larger share of equities. They will have some portion allocated to bonds. So in your view, how do you advise your clients? What is the right ratio? How do people look at it? And that also may change depending on age,
Yes.
profile of the customer, right?
So, asset allocation depends on your investment horizon first. Second, your age factor. We call it aggressive investor or moderate investor or conservative based on their age profile. So, someone who's coming under aggressive investor, he has just started his investment journey.
Sure.
Just started earning money, basically, right? Probably would go full on stocks, equity, mix of multiple instruments, and can park around 15-20% in bonds.
Yeah.
Or basically fixed income investment, which stabilizes his risk-taking capacity or, right, his portfolio, balance his portfolio. And similarly, when it comes to a moderate investor,
Sure.
someone who has made some wealth, right, and would want to, moderately invest that or manage it in a better way. Probably he can start investing around 20-25% or 30% probably. Yeah. Where, because he has seen an investment journey of last 5-10 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Right? He has been investing since 5 to 10 years. So in the last 5 to 10 years, we all know what happened in Indian investing this thing, right? I think 25 to 30% is where I think moderate investor can look into visit a location. But when it comes to conservative investors, you have been investing for more than 20-30 years all your life. It's your hard-earned money, right? And you don't want to take any risk because that also needs to cover your retirement planning or your XYZ expenses going forward because you're not working or probably you are, not sure, right? So they have to be very skeptical about that. And that's where for 30 to 40% should come in bonds, or probably more than that, looking at the current scenario, right? You can go.
You're talking about equity markets are at peak and you're not sure how the markets will pan out. There are talks about recession in US. So, in your opinion, it makes more sense to do more bond allocation.
There is another context of the overall context of macroeconomics, right?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of as a country where we are, globally where we are, in terms of geopolitical, like, I think context, as well as within India. Like, for example, if you see the whole repo rate, I think, it's been a very stable 6.5% repo rate.
Yeah.
Now, I think, where the bond, how the whole decision making can make it favorable for the investor is, I think, if you are at a higher point of the whole curve where the rate cuts can start happening.
Yes.
And if you are aware of that, and any intelligent investor, and maybe it's an onus also on any of the wealth tech companies, because finally we are kind of, we are governing the health of our investors.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, if we can make that awareness that, your investment is not just a function of investing in any asset, but which asset gives the best ROI in the context of time.
Yeah.
And if that awareness with the right accessibility, if you give, I think, that makes a very important decision making framework. Because right now, if you ask, like you mentioned, I think, we have had a superb, equity rally, which is all good for all of us. I think, and of course, I think, touch wood, I think, it may still continue. But everything that goes and flies above, I think, it needs to come down at some point of time also to kind of neutralize that. So now, I think, in order to balance it, I think, what we would advise people, who are taking those bets on overall investment is, hey, I think you have seen the right, growth in the equity category. I think, and now, even whether he is an aggressive, whether he is a conservative investor or any investor, you need to balance it out based on the context, because to gain advantage of the whole rate cut that may happen, maybe in 3 months or next quarter or in 6 months, that cycle will continue of rate cuts. And anybody taking a position of bonds, especially if they are taking a long-term 3-year, 5-year or even 10-year bonds, they will be at a very, very, at a great advantage, because I think, you're straight away making, when the new person who's investing is making 2-3% below.
Yes.
So I think, that's an onus for all of us in the ecosystem to bring that awareness to the users.
I think that points resonate with me, and I also will share some stories from our investors. I've seen a lot of our investors have booked profits in equity markets, and they're not able to find any good opportunity right now. With the bonds that we are able to offer, people are able to park money for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, depending on the remaining tenure of the bond. And since the payments also are frequent, they will get that capital if they require in equity. Otherwise, they can reinvest. So I'm also seeing this side of the effect. This is anyways a good alternate option from P2P investment options. In P2P, which are very risky, right? So I want to understand your view on why are people risking in P2P investment for 12%? Like, is this an awareness problem, or people perceive bonds as more risky? Because bonds are offering 15 also, and they'll come into your demat. People are able to trust a P2P person, but they're not able to trust an established company which is
into bonds.
Bonds was ideally meant for HNI clients, right? Or I would say ultra HNI, family offices. It was always driven by these people. It never came down to retail investor.
Yeah.
CB has just now started pushing it to retail investor, where what is the participation of retail investors in bonds market? 3%, 4%? Less than that. Right? Less than that. So 2% was nothing. So now that, the face value was 10 lakh rupees. We just discussed that.
Yeah.
It has all the way came down to 10,000 rupees. Now that retail investor has that, okay, he can consider investing in bonds, right? I think that has just started, and I would definitely say this will be a huge market for retail investors any given day, right? P2P, that was there since last 7-8 years in Indian economy or Indian investment industry. And minimum investment was just like 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. People were able to park up to 50 lakh rupees in P2P industry. But now that they know that, okay, they can also invest in bonds, starting with just 10,000 rupees in private placement bonds. Public, 10,000 rupees plus onwards of face value, 1,000 rupees, right? So they'll definitely start investing in bonds at the moment. But the right knowledge and awareness has to be still created. Right information has to be passed to retail investors or users. And there's a big scope here, I would say, for sure.
I think you're right. I also feel India probably has hardly 2 to 4 lakh retail users who are investing in bonds today. People maybe were investing in B2B because of ease of investment, lower ticket size, and the duration for this, the industry has existed.
Yes.
Bonds are very new for most people. Thankfully, now a lot of new players and companies are coming up which are offering bonds.
Yes.
Maybe is also doing a lot of things. We formed an OBPB association also to take this bond investment to retail investors. I was also thinking about pools of capital, like from where will the money come to bonds, right? So if you look at FDs already have 1.64 lakh crore parked in FDs. 25.
165 lakh crore?
Yeah, 1.64. Oh, yeah,
165 lakh crore from RBI. Huh?
Yeah, and 25% of that is parked in small finance banks.
Yes.
Right? Which are not secured.
The ratings are not so good in that sector, but
People are risking that money for 8%, right? So, and they might get 9 if you park for 5 years, right? But how are companies like you trying, or are you seeing the trend that money is coming to now bonds? Because that is a huge pool of capital that will eventually go to bonds market.
So maybe if my view is, I think, the whole space is nascent. I think, in the kind of the current context, there will be people who will come who are like, they have tried other instruments and now they are becoming aware. They have tried, like they were traditional fixed deposit people. Then they would have tried mutual funds. Then they would have tried equity and all that. And they are slightly, over the years become more aware, more knowledgeable. And now I think, with all the things that SEBI is doing, plus all the ecosystem players are doing, they will be kind of slowly investing in bonds. And that we also see it from our own customers also, right? Like, the customer may be wanting to invest, maybe he may be wanting to invest, say 10 lakhs. But he will start with, say, 1 lakh. He will try it for a
10,000
or even 10,000, right? And he will try it out, and maybe during even 6 months, he will see that these are safe. Hey, I'm getting back my quarterly or monthly interest, and his trust increases. So those kind of customers will first follow. Second kind of customers are, I would say, the guys who are coming into the whole savings ecosystem or the wealth ecosystem itself for the first time. And they have all the things available to them, and I possibly see them, somebody who is a 30 to 40-year-old guy who has started working, who has now kind of used all the existing maybe and now he wants to invest, and he also has knowledge in front of him. And those guys, I think, with all the right things, I think, they will directly may invest because they are slightly more aware. They will say, hey, maybe right now equity is risky, so I will do it with bonds. So it's the persona of the customers will vary, the segments from where these kind of people will come will vary. But again, I think, the big ticket, big volume of customers will come from the family offices and all that, where they themselves don't invest individually. I think, but they're wealth advisors and all that, they will govern how they advise. And I'm sure the wealth advisors are already knowledgeable people.
I would like to give an example of how one of our investors has been investing with us. So initially, to build that trust factor, he doesn't even know what is bond. First of all, his portfolio is so much exposed to equity, FDs here and there as well, right? And a lot of other investment instruments as well. But out of that, bonds was totally missing. And being a retail investor, when we projected him, hey, here we are, we have a bond for you, you can try this out. and he was like very skeptical, started with just 10,000 rupees. And now I can't believe it while I say it, because his 60% of his portfolio is in bonds on a platform. Most importantly, is there's a liquidity factor here in bonds as well. And thanks to SEBI again, right? They're also helping investors to liquidate if at all it is required going forward, and we are trying to build that as well, right? And there are not just bullet bonds, I would say, which is coming on maturity. We also have bonds that are offering you monthly principal repayments, monthly interest, due to which the capital is coming back, and again you can reinvest it or utilize it. You can plan in a great way. So that was one great story that we have from our investor book.
I think, yeah, that's a very interesting story. And I feel this will repeat out a lot number of times, as Vadir has also said, the market is nascent and it depends on customer persona. So I was thinking, what is the role of technology here and the importance of advisors here? Because since the market is very new, it might not be very self-serve through tech, right? We already have almost 1,500 RIAs in the country. We have more than 1.5 lakh IFAs in the country who are selling mutual funds. But I don't see a lot of people selling or being able to explain and offer bonds. Why, since this is not a self-serve category, what do you think is the role of tech versus human intervention or advisory in this?
We can't just go in one way. I just can't say that, okay, financial advisor will keep on selling bonds, right? No, we can't do that. At the same time, he needs technology. So we need to balance out both technology and advisor role over here, right? Because technology can give you the faster view of the information that you want within your mobile application or in a glance or something like that. At the same time, in order to understand that, you definitely also need an advisor who's advising you where to invest. What is this? Basically, all the what questions for a new or a very new investor in this particular market. I think both technology and advisor has to be there in this particular market, at least for now.
So these are like, I would say two levers, right? One is the trust lever and second is the technology lever.
Yes.
So as Manoj said, I think both are required in the context of a overall country as well. Like, like for example, tech cannot solve all the problems for all the segments in all the places. Whereas trust can solve certain things, but they cannot, then the whole process is going to be becoming slower. So, for guys who are getting into the ecosystem, it's a mix of trust. They come in and then they make it easier and then they see the benefits of the system and then they become self-serve, then they will do it themselves. Second is also, I think, we need to also consider that, while, we are all sitting here in Bangalore, the hub of technology, and I think, it's very easy for us to talk about and know the benefits of technology. I think, but I think, a lot of investors will be there in tier 2, tier 3, or even villages. And in fact, this whole ecosystem is a function of, I think when the minimum denomination is reduced to 10,000 from 1 lakh to 10 lakhs, the whole idea is how even a normal small investor can use it, who can come even from a small tier 3 city or a village or whatever it is. And for them, it is like, they will not come to the tech directly. I think, they will come from somebody whom they trust in their circles. They will start doing it. Then they have mobile phones. Then they will start using it. Then they will say, hey, this, I can do it. So I think it's a interplay of all of this would and over a period of time, I think, one starts pulling each other and trying to grow the ecosystem.
First time they might need an advisor.
Yes.
But then they will realize how smooth the KYC process was.
Correct.
I received the units in my demat.
Yes.
Everything is regulated by SEBI. There is a debenture trustee who is monitoring the covenant of that company. Even if the company delays the interest payment by a day, that debenture trustee will have a lot of rights over that company. They will ensure that you get paid first, right? So, I think when this knowledge you will not be able to impart without an advisor. Right?
Exactly.
So once this gets translated to the user, they will start exploring more and more bonds based on their risk profile. And we anyways have AAA rated to BBB minus rated bonds based on the risk profile of the users. People can invest in companies starting from AAA to BBB.
So while we were talking about ratings, why I think you should throw something about rating, how it is done, how the credit is done, what is the risk in terms of ratings and all of that.
So there are 7 rating agencies in India, and to list a bond, you definitely have to get a rating, and we will not do anything below.
Yes, they are basically investable bonds.
Yeah.
About that. How?
Triple B is a investment grade bond. In that also, triple B is also very safe. Like if you see percentage of default that happens in triple B of last few years, it will be like very, very minimal. Other than that, rating also will get upgraded or downgraded. So there is a chart that SEBI publishes on rating upgrades and downgrades also. Hardly 3-4% companies will see a downgrade, and before going bust, they will have a downgrade of first, right? So in that spectrum, I felt if you are investing in less than 2-year bond, even a triple B is almost as safe as any other investment.
And are giving good returns when it is from
Triple Bs which give you anything around 12 to 15, depending on the profile of the company.
Usually when it comes to bonds, customers are like, मेरे को safest rated bond चाहिए. Right?
The problem becomes that only, right? So people think triple A is safest, right? People feel triple B, although we have started C and D, they feel triple B is risky. They will go for a triple A. Triple A will then give them 7-8%, right?
Yeah.
Then they will feel, yeah, I will do an FD. Why will I go for it? I can do GSEC.
Correct.
GSEC is giving me 7.5.
Correct.
Why do I invest in a triple A bond? I think the premium in bond, and that comes when you pick something above 10.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can, for 7.5, you can invest in GSEC.
Yes.
There's nothing better than that.
Or just go for FD if you're looking for that. Right?
Now taxation is also safe.
Yeah.
You were seeing at least mutual funds used to get that indexation.
Tax money.
Yeah,
That's been removed.
Yeah.
Being removed, it's a level playing field.
correct.
Now debt mutual funds used to give you 8%. Now it doesn't make sense to invest in a debt mutual fund.
Correct.
A lot of money will then come direct.
Looking at that for your previous topic that we were discussing about, I think a lot of mutual fund investors will start investing in bonds going forward from this perspective, I guess.
Yeah, it's logical, right? I mean, I think, say, because as you start becoming aware, I think, then you know that there is a new asset class. I mean, as easy, as safe. I mean, I think, and it can give me a better return. So I think, it's a very logical thing that they will turn to this.
Finally, I would like to thank you both for your valuable insight. It has been a very interesting conversation for me and hopefully for the viewers.
Thank you so much for inviting us again.
The content is only for educational purpose. Investments in debt securities, municipal debt securities, or securitized debt instruments are subject to risks, including delay and/or default in payment. Read all the offer-related documents carefully.